Well, as promised tonight on Compass, our year-end chat with opposition leader Stephen Myers back on the set. Good to have you and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you for having me, Bruce, and Happy New Year to you.
Part of a year-end interview is looking back, part is looking ahead. Let's start with reflection. When you look back on 2013, what a year for your party. How do you describe it?
Well, it was a tough year, Bruce, but if you go back to prior to the AGM that was in the fall of 2012, and Olive Crane was still the leader of the party, and as you recall, that time I supported her 100%. She decided that she no longer wanted to remain on as the leader of the party, and you know, the next day came back and said that she'd like to stay on as the opposition leader. The party.
That's right. She resigned and then came back the next day and said, I'm going to stay on, right?
Yeah. So it was starting to create a little bit of turmoil in the party, and at that point I kind of stepped in and said, I don't know if this is best for the party, I don't know if this is best for you, and I don't think it's something that probably is the best idea at all. That kind of soured our relationship, and then moving forward into the new year, I put my name forward to be the interim leader, and I guess you can recall the events that happened after that.
When you look back at Hal Perry crossing the floor, it sounds as though you said on the day that you were shocked, but you clearly saw some signs that things weren't where he wanted them to be, right?
Yeah, well, he wasn't interested in what we were doing, and he wasn't really interested in being involved or talking with us. He chose the EI issue as an out, but he did have a meeting with the Prime Minister in May. I was in the room while he talked to him, and he never talked about EI then, so I don't believe it was about EI. He made his decision, and you know, I'm fine with it.
Olive Crane, you took tremendous heat for the way you phoned her on that Friday to let her know she was no longer welcome in your party. Would you take a mulligan on that if you had a chance?
Yeah, I probably would, Bruce. I think the part that people don't understand about that particular day, it was the culmination of a whole year of chaos and not knowing what was going to happen next within our own caucus. When I woke up the next day to see that Olive was talking about the backroom boys and taking shots at the party after promising that she wouldn't, you know, and I took her on her word for that. And to wake up the next morning to see that, it was really disappointing. I talked to a lot of people that day, so I didn't just decide this on my own. I talked to people who I trusted very much. I talked to people who Olive trusted and worked with Olive over the years. So it took me a long time to come to that decision, and when I came to the decision, it was late in the day. I really didn't have a whole lot of time left to do much of anything. I chose to phone her. It's unfortunate looking back, but it wasn't what I thought I was going to be judged on. I thought I was going to be judged on the fact that I had to do it, not the fact of the way I did it. So it's unfortunate, and if I had it to do over again, I probably would. Yeah.
Were you surprised at the amount of vitriol you received over how you did it?
I don't know if I got as much as you maybe think I did. I had a few phone calls. We did have a meeting with our party, and people talked about it, and I did admit at that point that it wasn't probably the best way to do it, and if I had it to do over again, I would do it differently. So, you know, it was a little bit surprising, but I guess it's the way it happened.
Olive Crane used to say she does not pay attention to polls. How much do you pay attention to polls?
Well, I pay attention to them. I mean, when the polls come out, we obviously want to know where we are in the polls and whether or not we come up, because whether or not they're an accurate reflection of what a true vote would be, it certainly gives the impression that that's where you are. So you don't want to necessarily be bad at them. I don't tie our future to the polls, though. I make sure that we're always working to hold government accountable every day. We keep working on the things that we need to work on, and fighting government on the big issues.
What kind of year did government have this year?
Well, I think government had a poor year, and I think if it wasn't for the fact that we held their feet to the fire on things like HST, on things like their healthcare changes, and pushed them to bring in catastrophic drugs, and pushed them to announce insulin pumps, and pushed them to do things about addictions on Prince Edward Island. I don't think they would have had, you know, much positive to account for if it wasn't for the things that we pushed for.
The international test scores for students, how much of that do you think government should wear?
Every bit of it, 100%. It's their system. It's the system they use to educate the students here in Prince Edward Island. It's failing students. We need to change it. We need to change it drastically, and I don't think this government has what it takes to make those changes. I don't think it has an understanding of it. If you hear the education minister talking about it, that it's really not that bad, and when you hear the superintendent say that we're pretty close to the other provinces, like things like that really scare me. The future of Prince Edward Island relies on well-educated students in Prince Edward Island. We need students who are the best and brightest to stay here, to work here, And we're obviously not able to teach them at the primary levels here because the system is failing them.
We'll leave it there, Mr. Myers. I know you haven't spoken publicly about a lot of these issues we discussed tonight. Thank you for doing so tonight. And again, Happy New Year to you and your family in 2014.
Happy New Year to you, Bruce, and thank you very much for having me.
All right, we'll take a break now on Compass. That is Stephen Myers. We have more to come on the program after a bit. Stay tuned.